Mindset makes or breaks us. I don't care if it's getting your health back, success in business, life, relationships, whatever it is. I believe we choose our mindset, and functioning from the true identity that God gave us is really a life of happiness and success. It really is. And I'll tell you, this interview on Cell TV will get you to truly understand that. But also, this gentleman gave us some hints to true success in breakthrough, whether it's you trying to gain your health back or, again, just in life in general. Well, this man doesn't have legs. Most of us listening to this do, but you would never know it based on his mindset. Wait till you hear him and get a pen and pencil ready, because he gives so many gems that will change the way you think and therefore change your life. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cellular Healing TV. I'm Ashley Smith, and you are going to love today's story. We have adaptive athlete Craig Blanchette. He's a 21-time world record holder in wheelchair racing. He's a 9-time world champion and Olympic medalist. And did I mention he's also in the Nike Walk of Fame? Craig will be talking all about life transformations and how to place true value in your health. What makes his story so special is that he's one of the most positive people on the planet, and his mindset coaching is incredible, something I know I cannot wait to learn from. And Dr. Pompa, overcoming obstacles and growing from your pain is something you know all too well, so I cannot wait to let you two take over and have this amazing conversation. So I'd love to welcome Craig Blanchette and Dr. Pompa. Welcome.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, this is, look, I think you and I have tried to do this show a few times, I think, right? I mean, this was like, I feel like a year ago we were about to do this show because I was so excited to interview you. I've heard so many amazing things. So finally, here we are.
Yeah, finally we made it happen. The tenacity, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm really excited. You know, one of the things I had told you about my viewers and listeners is that so many of them are health seekers, right? They're looking for, you know, how to get a certain aspect of their health better. Mm-hmm. One of the things I talk about, but I don't bring enough of, is the mindset around that. And I even said to you, look, you know, I've gotten so good at being able to tell who's going to be able to get better, who's not, you know, just by the things they say and how they look at themselves, right? Or their, whether they're themselves, their illness, their situation, their whole life in general. You know, you've been a master at that. So folks, listen up, because this applies to every one of us going to the next level in life, whether it's your health, whether it's just life, being happy. Isn't that our goal? Well, I'd put you at the expert category here. All right, well, tell your story though. You were, you know, no doubt born with, some people would say, a disadvantage, but you've made it an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I was born with a condition called PFFD, which doesn't really matter even what it stands for, but I basically missing my femur bones. So I have really short legs, and my feet are look different than the typical person. So basically it looks like I'm an above the knee amputee, essentially, which makes me pretty light and agile. You know, I'm 3'9", and so I'm a pretty short guy, but I'm pretty strong as well. And so it's funny, when I look at all the BMI charts, it still shows me as overweight because I'm 3'9", right? At 135 pounds, I'm still overweight. But that's all right. I'm working it out. But yeah, what I find is, I don't know who said this quote, but whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. And actually, I have found that is actually rings absolutely true. As I go through my life, there's most of the time, I always think that I can. And even if I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it, I just assume that I can do it. And then I sort of reverse engineer it to figure it out.
Well, you know, I stop there because I would say most people would think, I mean, what we're talking about, I know, you know, I can go to the bathroom, but I mean, as far as something more challenging in their life, maybe where there's a fear, most people would think I can't. So already, I mean, I guess that came out of you because, you know, growing up in a wheelchair, from birth. I mean, even as a baby, you realize you have to.
Yeah. Well, think about this. Well, I got my first wheelchair technically when I was in the 8th grade. So before that, I mean, I was thinking about what you say, you were born in a wheelchair or with a wheelchair. And I was thinking that would be very, very traumatic on my
Yeah,
mother.
there was a lot of walking on your hands, I'm sure.
Yeah, the wheelchair comes out, right? But think about it when you're a kid, and if even as a normal a child with normal legs, when you want to get, like, let's say you want to get a bowl of cereal, well, the bowls are usually on the top cupboard, not down below. So you've got to figure out a way to navigate, because cereal is the goal and a bowl is necessary. And so you pull a chair over, and I did the same things. I would just go from the chair to the counter to the cupboard. But the goal is I was gonna do it. I just had to figure out how to do it. And I think that example of figuring things out so that I was able to accomplish the stuff that I wanted to do, it started at a young age, and I wasn't told you can't do this or you can't do that. Actually, I was told that a lot, but it was like, even from something as simple as getting a bowl of cereal, you just figure it out. What was the alternative? No cereal? Well, as a kid, that was not acceptable.
Yeah,
right. And so you figure it out. And I think the other thing too, as a young, adolescent, in the summer times, you get together with the kids on the block, and then you play football and you play tag and you play hide and go seek, all the, whatever kind of games. And there was a level, I think, that we all have of, am I good enough? Can I measure up? When I'm standing at the start line and I look to the left and to the right, I wonder what they got and I wonder what I got, right? And I don't know if everybody has that. I know I did. So I was always trying to perform and keep up. And it was more of an identity thing. Can I measure up?
Absolutely.
Right. And for me, that, while initially that maybe not have been super healthy, it was more of a survival mode that wired my brain in such a way that was very conducive to competition. That, you step up to the line, and now it's not, seeing who can play tag the best. It was at the Boston Marathon, and we're about to throw down 26 miles. Or at the Olympics, and we're about to go 1,500 meters as fast as we can. And so always having the courage to step up to the line and measure yourself and say, what do I got today? Am I good enough? Am I better than them? Those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, which no doubt gave you an identity of someone who's willing to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Typically figures it out. I mean, that gives you a confidence. It's funny. I just recently taught a mastermind to the doctors that I coach, and it was basically always an understanding of who we are, our life, whether we like it or not. A lot of that is around how we see ourselves, our identity, and basically trying to break them through to their true identity. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, life, traumas, people, teachers, friends, whatever it is, events, give us a false identity, or at least we function around a false identity, mm-hmm. and instead of like really who God designed us to be, Mm-hmm. And my point to them was, you don't truly break free, or I should say break through in success, happiness, fulfillment in your job, whatever it is, until you're functioning fully from your identity, mm-hmm. So do you think, I have this question, I kind of want to get a day in a life of what your life looks like for people, because I'm curious, I'm sure they are, but do you think that it would be harder, I just went through a thing with my son, as I told you before we started, that he jumped off a cliff, didn't make it, and hit 50 feet down on rock. He should have been dead or paralyzed. He's neither. But we had a strong reality of, life, the rest of his life in a wheelchair, paralyzed. And it makes you stop and think. It really does. I mean, changing bedpans and that, it's made him stop and think, made me stop and think, right? You think it'd be worse happening later or being born that way? Or what are the differences? Because you're hanging around these guys, you're racing against a lot of these guys.
Right.
What are the differences?
Yeah, I heard a guy. He's one of my mentors. His name's Dan Valentine, and he said life doesn't happen, bad things don't happen to you. They happen for you. And the reality of that statement is, hard things are necessary for the feeling of satisfaction in life. That a lot of times we equate hard to bad and easy equals good. And I actually, in my experience, that's actually not true. Easy things aren't deeply satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Only hard things are deeply satisfying. So to answer your question, because I was born this way, all our life is a hardness factor of whatever it is. I don't know. It's as hard as it is, right? But in the process of working through the hard things, what do you learn? Are you learning to be better, and are you learning to overcome challenges? And when I don't know about you, but driving 26 miles versus running 26 miles, one of those is going to feel like a big accomplishment. Right?
I'll tell you, that driving is tough, man.
That's tough. Now, in certain types of LA traffic or something, driving 26 miles might be a pretty big accomplishment.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. In LA, it might be the driving.
It might be. But in reality, I think I don't know what's easier or harder. What I would say is there's probably a benefit to each one of them. Right. Being born this way, I had to learn how to do things in life kind of one time. If you were born with normal sized legs in a traditional body, and then you were in an accident, now you're going to relearn some stuff. But there's great value in that relearning process. And I know certain people that would never be professional athletes except for the fact that they are paralyzed now. And they are some phenomenal athletes. And so, there's a guy, this is a great story. And this guy played for the Phoenix wheelchair basketball team. And this is probably 20 years ago. His name was Neil Walk, believe it or not. So fun name, easy to remember. But he's like this 6'7" guy, and he used a wheelchair. And I was talking to him a little bit about his experience. And he said, I've had the privilege of living two lives, one from a 6'7" and one from a 4'5". And he said both of them have been I've met amazing people and have had amazing experiences. And that stuck with me. I was pretty young when I heard that, and I thought that's his reality, and that could be true for all of us. That you take what life gives you and you learn whatever you can, and you enjoy the experience.
Yeah, gosh, I mean that's so true, right? It's like, okay, life took a shift. Mm-hmm. He was blessed. Immediately his mindset was, I'm blessed to have two different lives from two different completely perspectives.
Yep.
Which is unique. And I do want to see, like, what does your day in life look like? I mean, it's obviously more challenging, at least from the outside looking in. I would say that's more challenging to you. It's like, well, not more challenging.
I look at your life and I'd say, man, you have to deal with shoes, you have to deal with socks, all those pants that are so long, and oh my goodness, it's think of it. I mean, there's so many things that are pretty simple for me to do. I would say here's my saying about difficulty level. What if we said we didn't worry about the difficult? We used the word called different. Mm-hmm. And things are only hard temporarily, because the more we do it, and it's because it's different or it's new. Tying your shoes for the first time is hard.
Right.
You do it 25 times, it's not hard anymore. So it's only hard because it's different or because it's new. And so anything you practice over and over again, actually, that's the definition of a habit. And so you can have good habits and bad habits. It's just whatever you practice. Mm-hmm. You can have habits that serve you by doing things that are healthy over and over and over again. They become a habit. A lot of times we do things that aren't good for us over and over and over again, and they become a habit too. But in the end, really, what it comes down to, and the mindset piece that I've been I've been really spending a lot of time with right now. It's the term authorship. And the reality is that we're going to go through our lives and we're going to biologically age. Every year we're a year older. It
Damn.
doesn't mean we're emotionally better, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to be a passive participant as your life story is written, or if you have the perspective or the awareness, you can develop authorship. And the quote that I love is, your life story will be written. Who will be holding the pen?
Mm.
Will it be your circumstances and a passive approach, or will it you establish authorship where you actually decide, here's what I would like next month to look like?
I think people watching this need to pause it right now.
Yeah.
You need to write that down, because, honestly, someone will be writing your life story. Why not it be you?
Mm-hmm.
I took John Butcher is a friend of mine, and I took his life book some years ago, and that's really what the premise is, right? And we have an opportunity to design our life. And
Mm-hmm.
he would carry this little black book around, and my friend Patrick was always like, what is that? You always have that thing. He's like, oh, I just call it my life book. What do you mean? It's like, I'm just not a believer in letting your life just circumstances define your life. I'm choosing mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing the life that I want to live, and that's where now then they kept saying, hey man, you got to teach that, right? It's like, a life book, it's the
Mm-hmm.
life that we choose.
Yep. And I was thinking about this because sometimes that's too big. And so for the people that are watching this, what if from the day you were born until today was one chapter of a book, and it's the book titled You, right? And so all of those experiences and everything that's happened to you was chapter one. And then what if from this point forward, each year was a chapter? So what are going to be the plot lines of chapter two? Is there going to be adventure? Is there going to be drama? Is there going to be strength building? Is there going to be deeper relationships? What kind of upgrades are you going for in chapter two? And then chapter three, what's that going to look like? Maybe something as big as, I want to live in Italy or in the Mediterranean. That might be chapter 10. That might be a little ways down the road for you to organize things to be able to get there. But things like maybe upgrading your car or maybe running a marathon, that might be in the next two chapters. And so you may not know all the details, but there are some things. You start with an outline when you're writing a story, and you talk about some of the things that you want in that story. And so what if your life was like that, where you just started, literally just pen some preferences down on a piece of paper and then watch those things start to become reality?
Yeah. So you're obviously doing that, have done that in your life. So
doing.
Kind of give us, because, I'm thinking of my viewer right now, and, all of us, we have a desire where we want to be, whether it's, be healthier, maybe it's a different job, a new job, financial better. I mean, so you've written your life, tell us what that looked like, so in other words, you've had, chapters that you wrote out or said, I want this to look like that. So, give us some views on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm still developing that. One thing that was always important to me, I wanted being married to one wife for life personally was a high value.
Me too.
We're 27 years married. We were just discussing literally last night at how it's a 10, like relationally, emotionally, physically, communication wise, financially, like we are deeply fulfilled in our marriage, right? Then, so I wanted that was something that was really important to me. And it was sort of an obvious thing. Then we had kids, and I wanted to be like, it was very important to me to be a father that I'd never had, a father that my mom and dad got divorced early on. And so I didn't have a lot of role modeling in that. And so a lot of the things that I did with my kids, I remember some people asking me, who taught you how to do that? I saw, I just figured it out. I mean, I got YouTube, right? You can learn just about anything, but it was some of the things that it says, well, it just made sense. This was something that just seemed like it made sense. So I did it, and I would take my kids out on dates and, I have two boys. Now they're 20, 26 and 24. And I've got a 2-year-old granddaughter and two more grandchildren coming, and they live close, and it's great. So those are some things that are important to me. And recently, I had a long athletic career starting in 1986, and that spanned up until about 2014. In 2014, I was on a comeback trail. I had lost 50 pounds in 2011, and I was starting to develop my health coach practice. And so that was going really well. And I simultaneously started racing again and training again, getting back into form. And in 2014, I was in a marathon down in San Diego, and there was an automobile on the course that wasn't supposed to be there, or it was supposed to be there, but they didn't let us know there would be cars coming around a blind corner at speed. So I hit a car, broke my shoulder, and ended my wheelchair racing career. And so then I had to figure out, so now what? Well, it turned out I could still ride a hand cycle. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was get back to hand cycling. And so I did that. I got back to a pretty high level with wheelchair racing. And then earlier this year, there was an opportunity to partner up with a company called Lasher Sport, and they build off-road full suspension hand cycles.
Oh man. No,
Yeah.
that sounds good to me. I was on my mountain bike this morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And where you live, there's that kind of stuff happening right now. And
Yeah.
so there was this idea to build this partnership. Well, one thing turned into another, and I started developing other sponsorships and started working with some new strength coaching. And I actually I wanted to compete, and they have the World Championships, which is in Crested Butte, Colorado, literally Saturday and Sunday, just a few days ago. And so came back with first place, the adaptive.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so
I have to invite you out here. We have some of the 500 miles of trail here in Park City. You stay with me and we'll hit the trails. Wouldn't that be?
I plan it. Yeah. And so that was some things that it's sort of some things just kind of start to be like, right, well, this makes sense. What's next? And it's not like I planned in November of last year when I met Bill Lasher. I didn't plan on going and winning the World Championships. Yeah. I didn't even really know much about off-road hand cycling. And so some of the things kind of just make sense as you go down the road. Some of the things you have a preference, and that preference starts to be realized. But you have to have an idea. What I wanted to do first was to be in shape, always be getting stronger, always be growing. And that was something for sure. And I knew that I loved adventure, and off-road mountain biking is a lot of adventure. And so things just kind of came together. But, right now, as far as what we're looking at in the next 2 to 3 years, is we're looking at buying some property, and we're looking at developing kind of a homestead or a kind of a estates. I don't know, just a nice place there, and potentially having our kids move out there and just having some land to do some legacy stuff. But, financially, I have the dream of doing it, but financially I don't see the means yet. But because I've started with the end in mind, I'm reverse engineering how to make those other things happen.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's the key, isn't it? I mean, we have to reverse engineer it. We start with the end in mind. Like you said, you had a value of, right? We start with our core values, and we can go from there. I mean, I always tell my docs that even with a business, right? What are your core values? I think at some point in my life I was into goal setting, and now it's like I just want to stick to my core values. It's like, and if I just like life takes on a different path, does this evolve my core values? If it does, then maybe I'm interested.
No, I think that's really great. You said something earlier about happiness and the idea of happiness, and the the reality of happiness is that happiness is a byproduct. It's not a destination.
Right.
When you don't sheer away from the challenges in your life, when you push through the difficult things in your life, you your life develops meaning and you have satisfaction. And I think after that, that's where happiness actually shows up. So
I agree. Yeah, no, it's a symptom for sure, but it's something we all want. It's the one symptom that we all want, but you're right. It's a byproduct of, I believe, a big byproduct of functioning even in your identity and your true identity and, what you're created for. And, when you find that, man, magic happens. But, we have an opportunity to write that book, right? Chapter at a time. Right now, in your life, are there any difficult things, meaning that, okay, it may not be a habit yet. You're still in the hard stage, that changes. I mean, when my son broke his back, there was a lot of hard things all of a sudden that again, as time went on, even those daily things that were really hard in the beginning got easier, to your point, right? But what's going on right now in your life that's really hard?
Yeah. So, right now, I mean, like leading up till this last weekend, there was a subconscious focus around this World Championships, and it started to become real little by little by little. And sponsorships came together. Then we had to have the equipment come together, and we were testing out brand new things, and then jerseys had to be made, and there was a lot of wireless technology around shocks and shifting and all this fun gear. And oddly enough, it all crescendoed together perfectly up at 10,000 feet in Crested Butte on the mountain, and things were just fantastic.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, though, you defined it just like any other athlete would have, what was going on in that moment. Okay, that's done.
Yeah. And oddly enough, when it was over with, I had been subconsciously and consciously so connected to this reality that when Monday rolled around, I had suffered a little depression.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because all that focus.
Yeah. Well, all that focus for months, and eating right, and the sleep, and the drinks, and the creatine, and the branched chain amino acids, and the all the different things, making sure I'm getting my 7 hours minimum of sleep, and all of these little details, just simple daily hydration. Just a side note, 2 of the things that you can do, they're free, but they come at a price. It's sleep and water. Those 2 things, 64 to 80 ounces of water a day, and no less than 7 hours. If you get less than 7 hours, you are accelerating your biological aging.
I agree. And then what's going on in those 7 hours, because I wear my Oura ring, and, I realize that there's things that I do that affect my deep sleep, and therefore my recovery and my heart rate, and
all that.
Heart variability, which is recovery. And so then you take it a step further, because believe me, I've slept 8-hour nights, and it was like, okay, that was a disaster.
Yeah. But so all those things came together, and then, I get done, and I mean, thankfully, and earning the first place trophy there, and the world champion, it was awesome. It's like, okay, everything gave me any type of variable that came along, I was able to answer every question that came at me during the 6 competitions that we had over those 2 days, and walk away from there, or roll away from there technically. And then I'm like, well, what's next? I don't have another big competition on the calendar for this year. So what's next? And so that's the challenge right now, is, oddly enough, is settling back in, getting back reconnected with my team and my coaching practice. And then, quite honestly, being the amount of emotional energy that was being invested in the racing came out of my marriage tank, right? And so my wife is an incredible woman. And right as I was leaving for the race, she sends me a text and she says, remember, racing is not your vocation any longer. It's a really amazing hobby. Stay grounded. And it's just beautiful, right? And so I did that. Now, when I went there and I raced, I threw down and left nothing else, nothing on the table. Oddly enough, going into day 2, they had some of the bikes that were e-assist bikes. I raced in the manual category, and I was leading by 45 seconds over all the e-bikes, over everybody after the end of the first day, which was kind of it was crazy. Everybody kept coming to my bike going, where's your e-assist? And I'm like, it's right here, right? and so the second day there was a big, long 2-mile uphill, and 1,000 watts of e-assist power is hard to compete against. But all that to say is, coming away from the actual event, now that energy that was taken towards racing is now back connected into my relationship and the different things that I love to do. So
and you have your own coaching business, I'm sure, where you tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my coaching practice, it's Crave Optimal Health. And so it's this idea where we're all craving to feel great. And one of the things that we all share in common as human beings is we all live in a physical body, right? We all live in here, and every one of us has a desire for this place that we live to work well, to move and walk and duck and, be strong and have energy. And just when we ask our body a simple question, can I do this? We want the answer to be absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not the case for many people. And then not only physically, but what about financially? We have an opportunity to go on an adventure and we ask our checkbook, can we do this? And it's going to say yes or no, right? And then we think about our calendar, our schedule. We have to have a vocation that's flexible to allow us to go and have adventures. And I call that whole thing more yes days. And I'm looking for more yes days, that when I wake up and ask myself a question, physical, financial, relational, schedule wise, and I want to have more yes days in the future.
Me too. Do you do any mindset coaching as well? I mean, if your mindset's right, man, you'll get well. If your mindset's right, you'll be happy.
Oddly enough, Dan, is that with the way that I approach my coaching practice is we start with the felt need, and then when the felt need is starting to be remedied, the found needs arise. And I don't know, in the Bible, when Jesus fed the 5,000, he didn't give them spiritual food first because they were physically hungry. And so he met their physical need first, and then now he establishes a trust and an ability or a opportunity to speak into their minds and their hearts. And so when I'm working with my clients, I don't start with the thinking and the mindset and the relationships and the whatever else. I start with what's presenting itself and it's usually the part of their experience, their humanity, that they're closestly connected to, and that's their physical bodies. So They don't sleep good, they don't have energy, they're overweight. Probably 8 out of 10 people have extra weight that they want to get rid of. And so we're like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's just fast forward. Now you're at a healthy weight. What's better? Tell me about that. So we start with the end in mind, assuming we're going to get there. And then once we uncover, through conversation, we uncover vacancies in their life, areas that aren't as good as they want them to be. And because I've earned the right to speak into their hearts, because we're starting to have some wins on the board physically, then these other vacancies, as they arise, we can start speaking into those areas too. And usually that comes to mindset.
Right. Do you have any, does your condition bring on any physical challenges? Hey, I'm in my 50s, and when I turned, 50, all of a sudden it was like, I hurt this low back, years ago, herniated disc, and now all of a sudden it's bothering me. I mean, so that happens to all of us. But does your, what you have going on, does it, is it creating any problems?
Well, I've ran a lot of marathons and my knees don't hurt. Ching, right?
One of the benefits.
Yeah, what a benefit. I don't have knees, so they can't hurt. But I have to rotator cuff and shoulders. Shoulders are not designed the socket, the way that the structure works. It's all held together by muscles, not like a hip joint is held together differently. And so with the mount, my arms and my shoulders are my arms and my legs.
Yeah.
And so having a shoulder injury is traumatic for me because when I broke my shoulder and tore my rotator cuff and all that in the accident, I already had two legs that essentially weren't super useful, and now I was missing an arm. So it became very challenging, the recovery process. And so for me right now, I'm working on keeping my shoulders healthy. I do a specific type of strength training. Dr. McGuff. It's called Super Slow Motion High Intensity Strength Training. And there's a book called Body by Science that explains all the details, but it's been around for a year. But essentially, it's 1 day a week, very, very intense, 20 minutes, where you take all your muscles to complete failure, and then you ask for 5% more. Your muscles say, I don't got it. And then you give them, then you say, okay.
I was introduced to that some years ago, and I still to some degree follow that. I do very little, but I go to complete failure.
Yep. So I do the idea there is it's 6 reps.
It's slow, right?
Yep.
It's
20 seconds per rep, and it's about 6 reps, and the weight's heavy enough so that you can do about 6 reps in about 1:30 to 2 minutes. And every week, it's either more time, more reps, or it's more weight. So every week I grow stronger. And I've been doing this for about a week. And one of the things that I noticed is that I don't want to spend a ton of time in the gym getting strong. I want to get strong, and then I want to go utilize that as a lifestyle. And so the hashtag essentially is strong for life. And one of the things that I've never, ever heard, I've never heard somebody say, I'm just too strong for that.
Yeah.
Right. Whoever says that, right? And so when your body is strong and your core is strong and your muscles are dense, when life shows up and asks a question, that helps. It helps everything. Helps at the grocery store. It helps with your grandkids. It helps with so many things.
So on 20 minutes, you're doing each body part. Are you doing like a warm-up set, then one set to failure for each body part?
You don't even warm up. It's just a straight
one set.
One set, yeah. So
and it's slow, so it's not like you're going to get injured.
Right. There's no inertia. It's 20 seconds. It's very, very slow. And the weights aren't that heavy too, because think about it.
No.
Doing 20 seconds per rep. I mean, if you do fast and you've got all these things going on, and the weight can be a lot higher.
So maybe it's a dumbbell press, right? I mean, whatever. Yep. Next week, then maybe it's an incline dumbbell press.
Yep. Well, and everything's actually in Nautilus machines. So they're all very, very structured and very controlled motions. So that what we found, and what I'm finding, is that there's certain exercise routines that are very productive, and then there's the productivity level, and then there's the danger level, the potential to injure yourself. And personally, what I'm looking for is the effectiveness is high and the safety is high. And here's an example, and hopefully I don't offend anybody, but one of the things about CrossFit is very, very productive. It is a community-based thing. It is fun. People are jacked. It is also the most dangerous that I've ever seen.
Absolutely. Injury, very, very high with that intensity.
Yep.
That's why I like this type of workout, because, it really, I take it a step further. I use restrictive bands where, restricts the blood flow, and the body thinks it goes into a panic. It throws growth hormone, norepinephrine up. So it takes down inflammation and upregulates, everything for healing. And so it creates that intensity with even less weight. I mean, you can take the most minor weight, but it's the same principle. You do the exact same principle but the bands take it to a whole nother level. You should try
Yeah, yeah, and he talks about that in the book there. But one of the neat things is that 20 minutes one day a week. Nobody for my lifestyle coaching practice. I have a lot of people. One of the first things to go when life gets busy and our lives get busy and stressful is one of the first things to go is anything that is complex.
Absolutely.
So if your life gets busy, you're not. Let's say you have a regular workout routine and your family comes to stay. You're not working out probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Or depending on what kind of a nutrition program you're using, if you're doing a lot of whole foods and cooking all of the things for yourself and it's not convenient, after about 30 days, the whole 30 only lasts 30 days because people can't, they pull their hair out, like, even, whether they have it or not. And so convenience to me is king if it's a lifelong change. And so for me, when I tell my clients about super slow-mo, I tell them it's 20 minutes one day a week. I've never heard them say, I just don't have time for that. I've never heard that once.
So you're going to hear, well, is that enough?
Yeah, that's what they say. And then I go, why don't you go try it? They give you 2 of the first sessions for free. Go ahead and try it. And they become lifelong, just like I did. I took the first 2 and that was a year ago.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that was one of my questions is what you do work out. So, but you have to keep your endurance up too, at least for if you're racing.
Yeah. So I do that for my strength stuff, but then I go out on my bike and I do road riding and I do off-road riding and I can do lots of different things, but usually there's some adventure and some entertainment involved in those things. Whereas lifting weights isn't a big entertainment for me.
Yeah, that's it. For me, I lift weights to stay in shape. So I'm able to go out and
exactly. That's it. Get strong so you can hike. Get strong so you can water ski. Get strong so you can go run or bike or whatever it is.
Yeah. And it makes me enjoy it more when I'm able, and you feel good. You don't have to worry about I'm dying here, right?
A simple fun story. My wife got me into the super slow motion stuff, and my wife does not like opposites attract. I'm a nice guy. She's not, right? And she started working out and I started seeing the results. And so I started doing the same thing. And one of the fun anecdotal stories about her and my son, my oldest son, he's 26 now, and he's always liked her to chase him, from just a little kid. And so she would always chase him around the kitchen or whatever. Well, now he's an adult. Oddly enough, he still likes to be chased. And so they were, I think it was Thanksgiving or something. Maybe it was Valentine's Day. I don't know. It was recent. She's been lifting weights for about a year. And she chased him and she grabs onto him and he's thinking, I'll make her let go by jumping over the couch. So he launches himself over the couch and she doesn't let go and she traps him on the ground and he says, why are you so strong? Let go of me, right? And it's just the thing, that hasn't been a common thing for her, but she hates working out. But again, 20 minutes one day a week, it's like she does it, and now it's showing up with our granddaughter. She's able to, she's a 30-pound little granddaughter, and moving her around is it takes some strength. So that's just a testament to being strong for life. And I think that at the core of every human being, if you're stronger, and if you have strong muscles, I'm not saying big, I'm saying strong.
No, there's a difference. I don't care
what size they are.
Strong to me is one of my values. Because strong it allows me to do the things I love without getting injured. And again, just at a higher level. Yep. Okay. What about for your mindset? Because I agree with you, like I'm very busy and people are, how do you do it all? I tend to keep things very prioritized, but very simple. And those are the things I can do. So what are you doing for your mindset daily?
Yeah. One of the things for my mindset is I utilize lists a lot to get things done, little check boxes. Every time I have a to-do item, I put a check box next to it so I can check that off and get that dopamine, burst, right? Oh, I've done that.
Oh yeah. At the end of the day, I like to go, okay, I did all. Oh, I feel good.
Yep. And even if there's something I did that wasn't on the list, I'll write it on there and I'll put a checkbox there, right? But the biggest thing for me is I do a lot of journaling. I have a special pen for journaling, and so it's a little quill and standard thing. But I like writing actually physically writing on paper. And the research that I've done and the reasons why I like it so much, it's there's a couple things about, I use the J word, journaling, right? But it's really just processing your thoughts through a pen. It's downloading onto a pen and paper. And one of the things that I've seen that it does for me is it allows my creative side of my mind and my structured logical side of my mind, they have to handshake and do a dance together, right? And so while I'm writing, I have to have my sentences make sense. There's sentence structure. There's actually, you have to read it. So all of that is when you're writing something down, it's the artistic side, but you're also formulating your thoughts, and then you have to slow down enough so you can write them out. And so it's one of the unique ways that I've found that you can be an observer of your thoughts by journaling. And so I've got a journal that I journal with regularly. I've been asking myself some questions. One of the things is a simple question: what no longer belongs in my future as a leader? And you just ask the question and wait for answers. Another one is thinking about this concept of leading from the future and acting in the now. So this is this destination mindset with the reverse engineering process.
Yeah.
You can say a statement like, now that I'm so happy and grateful now that blank has happened, whatever it is, because it blah, blah, blah. So I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm a world champion wheelchair rate or, hand cyclist, because it gives me a platform. Or I'm so happy and grateful now that I've achieved a healthy body weight because I will feel good about myself and blah, 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 blah. So you ask yourself these sentences that are sort of fill in the blanks, and you phrase the question as if it's already happened.
Yeah,
and it gets your mind thinking about it, and it starts to reverse engineer and to see a way to get it. And so there's a lot of journaling exercises.
Well, you're recording some things in your subconscious actually, and then your subconscious really drives the ship. So that's a big deal. Have you ever felt sorry for yourself through this process?
I can't say no, because I think it's a human condition that I have.
Felt sorry for myself so many times I want to slap myself.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I've spent a lot of time there.
So let me be more specific.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt sorry for yourself specifically that life is in a wheelchair?
Oh, no. I mean, no. Here's a funny thing. When I love kids, and just up there on the mountain, these kids came up to me, and I'm pulling off on this gnarly rad bike, and they're like, "Man, what happened to your legs?" And I said, "Well, I was born with short ones." And they say, "You were?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "What were you born with?" And they're like, "What?" And they look down, and I go, "Looks like you got the long ones." And he goes, "Yeah, I guess so." I go, "How about your brother?" He got a little bit longer ones, and we're having this little conversation. I said, when I was about to be born, I guess I stood in the wrong line. I stood in the line with the short legs, and you stand in the line with the line with.
Well, I make that joke about my calves. I see this guy with these huge calves. I'm like, it's guys like that were most likely was in line twice, or he took too much, and I didn't get any.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he went back for seconds before you got there.
Here's a perfect example. My little calves and thinner legs, right? Hey, I set the high school pull-up record, right? It's still there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do dead hang pull-ups, right? Hey, if I had too much calf, I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, that'd be extra weight, and it's not needed for pull-ups. Yeah. So it's just kind of those kind of things. There, I guess if I were the things that I've missed, that I feel like I've kind of missed out on, is riding a motorcycle with no adaptive equipment. That would be pretty fun. I've ridden them, but stopping is where I come to a problem, right? And the other, just different kinds of things like walking on the sandy beach and not getting sand everywhere, and your bearings and all that, And then my wife and I were just talking last night. We were watching So You Think You Can Dance, and And she said, if you had legs, what dance style would you pick? And I said, ballroom. And she said, me too. She goes, we're so compatible. And literally, this just happened last night. And that would be fantastic to twirl and to do some of those things. But, there's so many things. If I focus on the few things that I can't do, I'd miss out on the things I can do. And there's just too many of those.
You answered one of my questions. Is there anything you miss? You kind of said some of those, right? The sand, the ballroom dancing,
Yeah.
But again, we can all of us can look at our lives and say things, right? I mean,
whatever you're going to complain about is what you're going to complain about. And sometimes people have curly hair and they want straight hair, and some people have straight hair. And so it doesn't really matter what the actual thing is. It's the process that you are developing as you're working through it. That's, I think, the thing that counts. And I hear people that are quads.
More specific on that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, people can look at me and say I don't have legs and say, wow, that would be really hard. But I don't know. It's just this hard. What does hard have to do with it? Actually, is the answer to that. Some people, one of the things with quadriplegics, and paraplegics. So quads have impairment in all four limbs, either up to 100% or some degree. And paraplegics have impairment in just two of their limbs, right? And one of the things that I was saying is that paraplegics wish they had use of their legs back. Quadriplegics just wish they had full use of their hands, right? And so it's just all your perspective as to, are you going to always wish the grass was greener? Are you going to just accept what you have and make it better?
Yeah. And when you do, life can get a whole lot better pretty quick.
Oh man, and I'm telling you, it's fantastic. It's when you realize that life will be hard because new things are different, but if you want it bad enough, you'll do it. So it's not hard anymore because it's familiar. It might be hard, but it's not hard because it's new. It might just be hard. And I don't know. I just haven't been. I'm not a big complainer actually at all. Yeah. And I've talked with groups of people. I remember being in this class with a bunch of people it was a depression class. And first of all, I think about the idea of being in a class that's called a depression class. That's depressing all in itself, but that's a side story. And I'm telling my story about, it doesn't matter whether you think you can or you think you can't. What do you want? And then put a plan together and go get it. Or you can be passive in your life and just allow it to happen. And these ladies start talking and they're complaining about all the reasons why they can't do this and they can't do that. And at one point, I'm sitting in front of them, fairly athletic with no legs, and talking about all the adventure I have that is physical. And at one point, she just stopped talking and just said, "I'm done," and moved on to the next person, because the irony was so palpable in that room that I was there with perceivably less and celebrating it, and she had all her body parts and was complaining.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. We just have to shift our perspective. Our world becomes how we view it, man.
Absolutely.
It's simple as that. Here's an off the wall question I have to finish with is, have you ever dreamt in a dream and saw yourself actually walking? Or
interesting,
you never had legs, does that never happen?
I fly once in a while. That's fun. And I've ridden motorcycles once in a while, but have I seen myself walking? I used to wear artificial legs, and so I have experienced walking and some of those things. No, I don't know. It's not a common thing if it ever has happened, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, you would have stood out. What would you say the greatest gift you've been given? What is that?
I would say the biggest gift I've been given, it's kind of a strange thing, but it's the ability to inspire somebody to, they see me, and because they have a filter, or they set, like, they assess other people and they sort of set a bar, right? And for me, a lot of people set the bar pretty low because they see the wheelchair and they don't know me. And then and then they see me get out of my car, which is a fairly trivial thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how often do you get out of your car? Every time you get in it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not a big deal. And they're like, wow, I just saw you get out of there and you just flew out of there. And I'm like, what was I supposed to do? Right.
Yeah.
And so some of those things, oddly enough, can be utilized to inspire people. And I just have to be patient with folks and not take it personally. That I love, if you're inspired by my life, fine. If me getting out of a car inspires you, awesome. Right. I'm inspired by a lot of things too. And so the reality is that we have an opportunity to be, to live our lives and to be kind to one another. And so I feel like I try to be a kind person, and I try to leave people better than I found them. And I just really like people, and it's important. And so I think that's kind of my biggest thing, is just be encouraging, be inspiring, and being just kind.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that your situation really has been the crown for you to be the way you are? Meaning that, you are so positive. You are changing the world, individuals. I mean, do you think it's,
I think it gives me access.
You said that it's the difficult things that really are the most fulfilling and the biggest, blessings.
I think people will find that rings true in their life. Think of the things that they really had to work for.
Oh, no, totally. Yeah. So, I mean, therefore, is your, again, I don't even know what to call it, because I can't call it a handicap for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would answer the question, but is it the crowning jewel in your life? Is it the thing that has just made you? I mean,
I think it could have been my biggest nemesis, or my biggest asset. And, I'm gonna play the cards I was dealt, and I'm gonna build my skills and play them better and better.
By the way, going back, this is something I ask people, because there's something, it's true. It's called 3%ers, right? 3%ers are literally the people who overcome cancer, change the world. When asked the question, about like, how did you do that, or whatever, they go back at a certain place. Was there a certain place where, you said, what you just said, I'm going to choose it to be this way, not that way? Because you said it could have been either way. It could have been your downfall, but now it's your greatest gift. Was there a conscious choice at what age, at what time, or is it something, you looked back on? And
I think, I don't know how much
the choice was made. You made a choice at some point.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is you have a personality type and you have predispositions for things on the Enneagram. Are you familiar with the Enneagram stuff?
Maybe.
There's personality types, and there's 8 different ones. And
probably. I should know that.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a number of different ones out there, and this is one that we've been studying a lot. But my personality type, there's other people with my personality types, but it's my personality type and my lifestyle are very compatible. So I'm not one to be, a cloudy kind of mindset person. I'm a pretty sunny disposition, and my personality type likes to be in the spotlight and have fun and have adventure. And so whether I had legs or not, that's probably who I would be. I think it looks differently because I was born this way. So it has its own flavor of how that looks. But I know when I was a kid, I would say the only thing that comes to mind is when I was a kid and I would be riding my skateboard, or going cruising around the neighborhood. When there was a number of times when people would come up to me and they would just give me this piece of information that there was a reason, not a reason why, but a reason for, right? So there was going to be something that this was going to make me into that would be great. And so it's kind of like your scars tell stories, and those stories can be amazing. And so it was kind of like that there was just going to be a purpose for it. And
but the opposite, I'm sure.
It could be.
Fun of you, though. I'm sure kids made fun of you, maybe, and people told you what you wouldn't be able to do. I mean, all of this,
You know what?
your brain is choosing to even remember the positive things, right? But I promise you, probably more things were said to you negative that could have been your identity. I can't do that because you've been told, right? So our identity is, formed, but something made you choose, right? That, hey, I'm not, this is going to be positive for you. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let this slow me down. I mean, those choices were made, and that's for whatever reason. I always say, look, you can choose to be a 3%er. It's just choosing that, hey, this isn't going to stop me. I'm going to do it. You're a 3%er, man. You chose not to be defined by the negative identities.
Yep.
I
would say, and I remember one of the things early on, they said I couldn't drive a stick shift. And I was like, and there was some things that people told me I couldn't do, and I didn't even want to do them until they told me I couldn't do them. And then I did them just to prove them wrong. So I think that just, for whatever reason, I don't know, but it's just kind of the way things worked out for me. And I choose not to dwell on the things that I can't do or that are too difficult to do. And I choose to work on the things that I can accomplish.
I don't know if you know who Johnny Erickson Tata is.
I do.
She, in a wheelchair. And
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
if
many
come to a sports camp. I run a wheelchair sports camp in Minnesota. Then she's been to that same camp.
She's a powerful woman. She's changed the world. I mean, she just unbelievable to hear her speak. And I mean, she's like you, very positive. But, she says how many people will come up to her through her life and say, I'm praying for you to walk again. And she's so gracious. She says, honey, I have a lot of things you could pray for me in my life, right? But that's not one of them, please. My wheelchair is my crown. It is my crown. Don't pray me out of my wheelchair because, I would be not doing this.
Think of that.
Yeah,
what
right?
Amazing.
So you see that perspective. It's like, please, if I walked again, God only knows what my life would look like.
Yeah, it might be kind of boring.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. But, yeah, I think your wheelchair is your crown, man. I mean, it is.
Well, and I've utilized that. I've been in sales. I've been in different types of situations, and immediately when a person in a wheelchair that's comfortable being in a wheelchair comes up to another person, it's disarming because you have a certain perception of what they're going to be like, and when they are more than that or different than that, then you're curious or you're intrigued. Or something happens. And so I have access into people's life, into speaking people's lives that traditional stand-up people don't have access to. And so why wouldn't I use every card I was dealt, that being one of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And just one of the most powerful things you said is that, things are difficult or hard only in the beginning until we make them habits, right? It's like, then we figure out a way around. I'm just, that echoes to every one of our listeners, it's like, dietary changes, it's hard in the beginning. But there's nothing good.
And think about this. What if you had the perspective of what does hard have to do with it? Or what if you changed it and you said, I do hard things?
Yes, because hard things are the rewarding things.
Yeah.
I do hard things because they are the most rewarding. Dang it. That's my
easy stuff is boring.
I'm going away with that right there, Craig. Honestly, you know what? I do hard things because I love it, because those are the most rewarding. So if it's taking whatever up to the next level, I love doing hard things, Craig.
Yep.
And you taught us that today. That's for sure. Well, listen, thank you so much for finally coming on Cell TV. And absolutely. And listen, I mean it. I want to have you out here and you stay with us, and I want to hit the mountain bike trails with you. We'll have a blast.
Absolutely. And we'll plan for that. Thank you for the opportunity just to tell my story and to give a platform. Hopefully through this interview, somebody will say,
give your website. I mean, we'll put it up a few times during
craveoptimalhealth.com. But in the end, hopefully somebody will see this and they'll say, if he can do it, I can do it. Or they'll say, why not me? Or they'll say, what does hard have to do it? Or there's a number of little sayings, I'm going to be an author in my life, right? In certain people. And then the other thing too is, I work with people all the time. And if I have an open door policy where people can have a chat and we get to know each other and we find out what's going on. And if we uncover a vacancy that wants to be occupied, then we figure that out. And
Beautiful.
it's an absolute blast to do that, folks.
Well, connect with Craig. Listen, if you're going, gosh, I'm struggling. I can't, I need more of what he's saying. Hire a coach. That's what I always say. Hire Craig. That's darn what I would do, because it's hard to get there ourselves, right? I always say you become who you hang around. Dang it, I want his positivity. Hire the man. All right, Craig, thanks for being on Sell TV. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
Well, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, which was brought to you by Fastonic Molecular Hydrogen. Please check it out at getfastonic.com. We'll be back next week and every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We truly appreciate your support. You can always find us at cellularhealing.tv, and please remember to spread the love by liking, subscribing, giving an iTunes review, or sharing the show with anyone who may benefit from the information heard here. And as always, thanks for listening.